episode of Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. And as always, I have a very special guest for you, Nicole Sharpe, founder of the Heather Hurley Foundation. She'll be with us for the next 30 minutes, so stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. And like I said, I have a very special guest for you, Nicole Sharpe. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. We love having people in the community who are doing great things, different things, movers and shakers. And you are definitely a mover and shaker in the community. Okay. So welcome to the program. But before we get started, I always like to start off with like Lydia's hot seat question, which is, who is? So who is Nicole Sharpe?
Oh.
The big question.
Yeah. Oh, I'm the founder of the Heather Hurley Foundation for the Prevention of Domestic Violence. I started that foundation officially about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's named after my mom, Heather Hurley, who passed away as a result of domestic violence. Mm-hmm. I wanted to just be able to teach people about domestic violence, what it truly is in our community, and get rid of those taboos that people have about domestic violence. And I believe that the more you talk about it, is the more you break down the walls of silence, and thus you break down the foundations of domestic violence.
So on a personal front, before the foundation, because there's a lot of years leading up to, before you actually founded it, what were you doing before? A little more about you.
So I was orphaned as a result of domestic violence. So my father, after many years of domestic violence, hurting my mother on a regular basis, mm-hmm. And me witnessing it for the most part as the oldest child, I just went through very traumatic times. And just after the murder, my father murdering my mom, mm-hmm. One fateful night, as I got older, I just wanted to be able to use my mother's experience to help others so that she wouldn't die in vain and she'll have some sort of legacy. Because my mother, for herself, she was an advocate in her own right, mm-hmm. not for domestic violence awareness, but just an advocate of life. For example, she would buy turkeys for people, during the holidays. She would just be like a loving, warm support to people, even strangers. So I thought this would be a great legacy for her name.
Absolutely. How long did the abuse last? And I'm only asking because a lot of people, it's hard when you're not on the inside. People look at that and they'll hear like, well, why did she stay? Or why did they stay so long? And years upon years go by and you find yourself in situations far longer than we all should.
Yeah.
Classic example, and I've watched this how many times, is the Ike and Tina Turner movie, where she stayed far more than 10 years. She had money, she had everything. Even she could not, every time she got a little bit of strength and wanted to leave, she would go back. Yeah. So how many years did this ultimately go on for your mother and you, because you were a part of it, essentially?
Yeah. A side note, I can't even watch that Tina Turner movie because it just brings back too many memories.
Yep.
I was stuck in a home where I had to watch it every day and I was forced to, like a horror movie that mm-hmm. you can't walk out of. So I try to avoid those visuals today. But from what I heard from my family, my mother would experience domestic violence even before my father and mom were married. So
even in like the dating?
Even in the dating phase. And they got pregnant with me right before they were married. So, like at the bridal shower, he abused her. Right. He threw water on her while she was pregnant with me. He beat her up while she was pregnant with me. My maternal grandmother told me. So it even predated me. Yeah. And then I was 15 when the murder actually happened, almost 16. So, you could say 16 plus years.
Yeah. Of that. And it's just so crazy when you think about that because it has such an effect. You ended up being orphaned, I'm sure, and we could kind of debunker that is your personal relationships. What happens to you, because all of us, our first love is our mother or father, you know?
Yes.
So, like, for a girl who we're going to try to emulate of what our vision of what a man should be will come from our father. And sometimes if you're in a bad situation or you have a parent that ill-treated you, you actually, in a weird way, seek that out.
Right.
So has that, because that's all you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's what love has been for you, that, like, if he hits me because he loves me, or if he loves me, it's because of this. And I'm like, no, that's a BS. That's not even right in the least. Like, you should not be abused. Do you find that affected you in your personal relationships? Like, when you've actually started dating and now being in romantic relationships, how did that?
Most definitely. Yes. My father, interestingly enough, he was a very good father, right? But he wasn't a good husband.
Yeah.
Very good father. So,
and it's funny how they could separate the two, because there are two different roles.
Yes.
You could be a great provider and father, but you're a crappy husband.
It was very strange, because he would go out of his way to just be a good father. You know, we would, my birthday is in December, so every year as a rule, we would put up Christmas lights on my birthday. He'll give me whatever I wanted, even things I didn't ask for. He'll just always shower me with gifts. He would treat me like I wish that he would treat my mom.
Exactly.
Right? And so when he would beat my mother, it was like a big conundrum in my head. Like, I was so confused, because my mother is an extension of me. My father is also an extension of me. And he loves me but doesn't love my mom. And then, it just was very confusing. So as I got older, I really don't date. I have a fear of dating. So the first person that I met, I married. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, and I ended up, I was about 21, and we ended up getting married, and we had 2 children, but now I'm divorced. After that, I would meet some people, but nothing has really lasted. And I do know that part of the reason is because of what I grew up learning. Like you mentioned, you learn from what you see as a child, because children are sponges. And even though parents don't sit down and say, okay, when you get older, you're going to beat your wife. No, you're taught that from what you see.
It's just what you see.
Yeah, and I know a lot of men, they have said they'll never treat their wife or girlfriend like their father treated their mother. But then they end up doing it because it's become something
It's learned
ingrained.
behavior.
Right, and that's where intervention will have to come in. You will have to create an intervention on purpose, like go to therapy. I believe in therapy, so I've seen a therapist as a child and a number of times as an adult whenever I see the need to. So, but when it comes to relationships, it's something I'm still working on even after all of these years.
It's always going to be a work in progress. I think it will forever be something that you, not just you personally, that people, you have to, different things might trigger certain things. So you go through a period of your life or something and you realize you have to do that. Did you ever want to confront your father about that? The beatings? Like, you would see how how you said, he would be so loving to you, but then ill-treat your mom.
I was the oldest of 3, and I was an extrovert at first, but then I learned to be introverted, to just keep everything to myself. Even my mother would help me with that, to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
So I learned to keep my mouth shut. So although inside I would like to tell my father something, I used to act like I was just like a fly on the wall. Not really part of the family, but part of the family when they draw me in. So I never did voice my opinion.
Hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. So, Nicole, you were saying before we took the break that, as much as you wanted to speak up, and maybe on the inside you were speaking up, there was still a part of you that became that introvert that you just kind of kept it to yourself. And I could understand, because maybe speaking up, your mom felt triggered that if you spoke up, it might happen to you.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, did you ever ask your mom, why does she stay? Like, when your father's out of the house and you have these mother-daughter moments.
Didn't have any.
You never got any?
No. No, we just kept quiet, like it was never happening.
But it was evident that it was happening.
Never spoke about it or acknowledged it. Yeah.
She never once acknowledged it. So even as a little girl, in your younger years, when you're kind of so innocent, because 15, 16, you're aware of what's happening at that point. But 6, 7, 8, the first time you see your mom with bruises or something, you know, it's innocent for a child to be like, Mommy, what's wrong?
I kind of grew up with it, because I have really good long-term memory, but I have really bad short-term memory. So my earliest memories are like 3. I can remember my father beating my mother. Right? It was like, became normal, like part of my life.
That is true.
Right? Whereas, so I would see the bruises all the time. You know, there was...
Didn't seem out of the ordinary, because it's something your whole life, so...
Yes.
Understood.
Yeah, and just don't talk about it. You know? So I would keep everything inside, and then I would want to, like, think about committing suicide, think about running away, think about ways to just get away, because I couldn't talk about it or express myself. Not even in school. My mother told me, don't say anything to anyone. And so I would have like shaking fits, you know, when I would see the violence. And I created some defensive mechanisms where I would just write, and I would write stories, and I'll be the protagonist. So I'll write myself away. I'll choose a country like France, go to Nice, and then just write a whole story about me being in Nice, France. And that's how I was able to escape. But other than that, I did not express myself with regard to the violence.
Wow. And that's a lot to keep in.
It is. It is. In my mind, a lot of things were going on in my mind, like a lot of whys, why.
I have a million whys right here, so I could understand, you know. It's just so crazy to think about that.
Yeah. Even my mother, like sometimes after my father would beat her, she would just go do housework and sing. And then she had a really pretty voice. And sometimes she would sing, Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. And I would say in my mind, like, why is Mommy singing this song? Why doesn't she just run away? You know, just run away. But I, as an adult, I understand now, you know, all of the obstacles that get in the way of why she couldn't run away. She did try to twice with me. By running over to her mother's house, but then my father would take me. One time he kidnapped me out of school. I didn't know it was kidnapped. I thought I was just hanging out with Daddy.
Yeah.
But he sent a message like, you'll never see Nicole again if you don't come back home. So she went back home.
Yeah, to use the kids as pawns.
Yes.
So, it's a real... Domestic violence is a real thing. And during COVID, actually, I was reading that so many people, you know, when you were on lockdown...
Yes.
That's why there were so many divorce cases went up. Everything went up because either now you're faced with your abuser. So either this is going to really show you either something's going to change. Either you're going to get out, or you guys are going to make it through this stronger, or somebody's going to leave.
Yeah.
Because you're on lockdown. City was shut. No, state really. Where were you going to go? I was reading so many people, like the abuse rates tripled. Like it skyrocketed because now you have no choice.
Yeah.
You're confronted. Sometimes going to work or going to school is your only out little piece of solace.
Yeah, and there was another pandemic. That was another pandemic that was going on because it was happening in every single country in the world where everything skyrocketed. And I knew that that would happen with the onset of COVID and all of the guidelines. I knew it. So I just started looking online to see if statistics were coming up. I just had a feeling. But yeah, it was, domestic violence is homegrown terrorism. That's what I call it. So imagine now that, like you said, you're stuck in prison now with your abuser and you can't get out. And you have children, you can't just run. You know, so, and a lot of people would use shopping to get away, the gym to get away, hanging out with friends to get away, work, right?
Every
School.
single outlet that you had was taken away. Like you said, you couldn't go to the gym. You could barely go to the store.
Mm-hmm.
There were no social activities. You can't hang out anywhere.
Yeah. And then a lot of the of those resources, those offices that help specifically victims of domestic violence were closed. So when I found out in New York State, they created a text messaging system where people can text for help. And so I would put it on my website. I would put it on social media so people can see. But it's hard because when you're stuck with your abuser, they monitor everything that you do. They monitor, especially if you go on your phone or a computer, to want. How dare you want some light of the outside world? They're able to just watch you. I helped a couple of people during that time where people were reaching out on behalf of friends in other states who were on lockdown with their abuser and being beaten almost half to death. And I had to I would call and try to advocate on their behalf with the services in their neighborhood. And yeah, it was a pretty bad time.
That is, oh my goodness.
But even last year, a project was born that became part of the Heather Hurley Foundation in Uganda. So I had I went to Uganda in 2019 on a missions trip. And the pastor who has the same passion of helping women who are victims of domestic violence with children, I reached out to him, and he reluctantly told me, they need a lot of help because they were really being abused even more so than before. And so we were able to help a number of families, and today we have 15 families with 55 children that we're assisting.
That's great.
There in Uganda. It's called Mirembe African Village Project. I'm really happy.
And how did Uganda get picked?
Uganda?
Yeah.
Because I did visit it in 2019.
So you just did your own trip over there?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I got an opportunity, so I said, yes, I'll take it. Yeah.
No, that's great. You got to travel. You got to be able to, kind of really make your footprint over there.
Yeah.
And abuse happens. It's an international problem. It is not. Yes. You cannot just say certain cultures or certain religions. It truly is universal.
Or gender.
Gender, yeah.
Yeah, or.
I think males. Well, we know males get abused. I wouldn't say at the equal rate.
No,
but
definitely not the equal rate.
But it's a high rate.
Yeah.
It just goes not as reported.
Yeah, and more so for them, it would be more emotional, verbal abuse.
Yeah.
But I would say domestic violence has no face. So anyone from any facet of society, it doesn't matter if you're a doctor or if you're a vagrant on the street. It doesn't matter how much you make, it has nothing. You can be, unfortunately, a victim of domestic violence or an assailant.
Well, hold that thought. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. So Nicole, I think the big $1 million question that everyone's been, and I've been holding them until the end of the episode, of course. Your father, you know, your mother was assassinated by him. Mm-hmm. Did he do time, and how long?
So he did 8. He was given 8 1/4 to 25 years for manslaughter in the first degree. He didn't get murder. The ADA at the time told us, me and the family, that unfortunately the law basically sees a woman, a wife, as the property of her husband. Yeah, he was so blatantly truthful to me. He said, I'm going to be truthfully honest with you. That's the way the law is at this moment. So usually when you get those crimes, those men don't really get a lot of time. And I was like, this is just
because ridiculous. It's like he's just
violating his car.
Yeah, destroying property.
Yeah, something that belongs to him. And so, of course, that
I'm very shocked
me.
Right now.
Yeah, that upset me very much so. But I must say that laws have changed since then, where We had a DA, Charles Hines. He's passed away now. He was also a child survivor of domestic violence. That's what we're looked at. And he became a lawyer and then a DA because he wanted to change laws. Yeah. And so one of the things that he did incorporate was that if first responder comes in, sees that there is abuse, arrest the assailant, even if the victim says nothing happened. If you can clearly see it, he's arrested. Yeah.
And he had a whole domestic violence unit.
Yes. Yeah. I loved him, so he was very cool, and I could go to his office whenever I wanted to. Yeah. No. He was very dedicated.
Very dedicated. Did a lot for, because he knows firsthand where it was coming from.
Yes, exactly. He understood.
So 8 years and a quarter, and he served the 8 years and a quarter.
So he, after 8 and a quarter, he tried to come out on parole. But the family and we went up and we gave a statement every 2 years, every time he tried to come out on parole. Throughout the years, it started to dwindle, less and less people, till it was just me going up to parole board and giving my statement until it reached 19 years. And after 19 years, that was his earliest release date. And so he was released, and he's an older man at this time. He had a heart attack in prison. 2 heart attacks in prison. He had a bout of lung cancer, and he was in remission. He had other health issues. And so he came out, sickly. And he wanted...
know God doesn't sleep. But yes, we digress.
So he wanted to meet his children again. And I wasn't...
Don't know what for.
Very happy to want to do that, but my sister, my brother wanted to see his father because he didn't remember him. He was 3 years at the time. And my sister, she's more outgoing. She wanted to ask him 1,000 questions. Yep. Why did you do this? What is wrong with you? She had to get all that off her chest. We ended up just meeting together at church, Brooklyn Tabernacle, on a huge table far away from him. And he was there with his friend, and he answered all the questions. And he seemed delusional, like he wanted us to celebrate Thanksgiving with him that year. And the pastor had to say, you have to understand what these children went through. I mean, we're adults now, but you have to understand they're probably not going to want to celebrate Thanksgiving with you. He was a bit delusional. But as time went on, my brother and sister, my brother had enough. He saw him twice, and that was it. My sister would spend more time with him, and I that was good. And I also did as well in the nursing home. He started getting sick again. Cancer came out of remission, and but for his last month, I didn't see him. It was mixed, very mixed emotions. But my sister would take him to church, and he ended up giving his life to God. Whereas before he was an atheist, and hopefully he really did, genuinely. Right. And then he passed away.
Well, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. How do we get in contact with you? What's all your contact information, social, all that good stuff?
So Heather Hurley Foundation, the website is heatherhurleyfoundation.org. That's HEATHER. HURLEY foundation.org. And you can also find us on Instagram, heatherhurleyfoundation.org, and on Facebook, heatherhurleyfoundation.org, and Twitter as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
And our number, I'll give you the number.
Yes, please.
Never remember. It's 646-968-0055.
Awesome. That's amazing. And if people want to donate, just get involved, they could definitely just reach out to you.
Yes, or they can... contact us on our website, heatherhurleyfoundation.org, or give us a call.
Absolutely. Any final words? How do you feel all these years later? You're able to talk about it somewhat, but you could still sense that I think it's forever a pain point for you.
Of course. It will always be. I always say it's something I'm going to live with for the rest of my life. And it's okay, because it doesn't take over my life. I'm still able to live my life, but I like that I'm able to help others to be able to save their lives, and that gives me solace and joy to be able to do that. If I wasn't involved in the work that I do, it would be much more difficult for me, but it's actually helping me as I help others.
Absolutely. And that's I think that's the best way to approach it. Try to help put a positive spin on it, for sure. But I know you're probably like a magnet at recognizing red flags.
Oh, yeah.
And that's always a fear. Like, you just don't know when, like, is he just overly clingy? Or there's certain things that I would,
Yeah.
if you're in the dating pool and you'll just be like, okay, is this person coming on too strong? Like, if this is how he's acting now, this is not a good sign for later.
Yes.
There's just certain things that
And we can't turn a blind eye, no matter how much we like the person. And I'll be real, even like when you have sex with the person, you're already, connected, and then you see a red flag, you're not going to want to let go. It's harder to let go then. But we can't turn a blind eye.
I think that's a very important thing, is to just, for men and women, just be aware of certain traits, certain characteristics. Those red flags are real.
Yeah. I mean, even if a person wants to move fast, you might think, oh my God, he's in love with me, but it's not normal to move too fast.
Yes.
You can feel inside it's
like
a little
that
too
little
fast.
voice.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. It was great having you.
It was lovely being here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, you can send us an email at info@beyondfocusmedia.com. I'm your host, Lydia Patel. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be back again next week. Same time, same place. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us.
Beyond Focus TV show wants and needs your feedback. Did we blunder? Please let us know so we can improve. Was the show helpful to you? Drop us a note so we can share the success with our staff members. Is there something you think we could do better? We welcome new ideas and new approaches to old ideas. Do you have a great suggestion? Let us know and we'll work on it. If you would like to share your comments anonymously, please send us an email at info@beyondfocusmedia.com. If you want to get in touch with the executive producer directly, send him an email at gene@beyondfocusmedia.com. We really look forward to hearing from you.